Hello, everybody, and welcome to Powerful Stuff, you guys. Wow, it is finally summer in Venice Beach, California. I just got back from a really powerful beach session with my old co-host, Eileen. Shout out, Eileen. We basked, we pondered, we jumped in the ocean and cleansed our souls. So I'm feeling really refreshed, needless to say, just born again, new. You know what I'm saying? I hope you're feeling the same. We made it through May Gray. We made it through June Gloom. Let's go. So this is going to be a very speedy, but very powerful, as you already surmised, great little high school vocab word, episode. And I always try to do things that are top of mind from my heart, from my blessed heart to yours, so we can all resonate at the same frequency and so it can be as authentic as possible. And what's been on my heart this week, guys, and it's a constant thing that I'm working through and that I continue to use my own tools for, take my own advice that I give my coaching clients, is clearing energetic, chords and ties with other people. So what I mean by that for myself is just continuing to, let's say you're having a situation with someone and it feels off, it hasn't been addressed yet. You feel like you have a lot of anger or resentment or triggers come up with this particular person. I've felt this in two different ways this week. And also for me, I have a thing around wanting deeply internally wanting acknowledgement for things. And when I go or I feel like I go above and beyond for people, I, know that I have to give that unconditionally, or else I'll lead to disappointment because we all know expectation works in that way. But, yeah, I found myself getting a little resentful for not getting acknowledged for certain things. And then a little triggered, by a certain person, certain people. And these are always shifting for all of us, right? We're triggered by someone in one season of our life and then it's someone in another season of our life. But all of that's to say, guys, it's not about the trigger. It is about what you do with it. Am I right? And so today's powerful stuff is actually going to be helping clear the energetic frequency, helping neutralize internally. And I'm going to share with you some techniques that I do when I'm feeling triggered by someone. I wish they acknowledged me for something, kind of like I'm feeling this week, how you can first internally clear your own energy. And then that also and kind of radically own your side of it, so to speak. And then that also neutralizes the situation for you. Sometimes these things just have a magical way of working out where it then ends up clearing itself up on its own, or that person reaches out to you. Or if it's still on your heart after you've done all of this work around it energetically, then you can speak to that person in a powerful, neutral framework, which I've shared on the podcast. But you know what, guys, because I love you so much, I'm going to share it again. And because you know what, we can never have too much communication tools. So here we go. The first thing I do when I am feeling kind of triggered by someone is I just let little Meredith speak, what we resist persists. So I kind of have this internal dialogue with myself. Maybe I'll say it out loud. Maybe I'll write it in my journal, whatever you feel resonates with you today. But I'll be this person is this and they should know better. And I've done X and Y and Z for them and I'll almost be okay, little Mare, tell me why you're upset. And then I'll kind of let little Meredith speak, that version of me who's they didn't acknowledge me and I did X and Y and Z for them. And it's so unfair and it's so frustrating and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'll just let little Meredith let it all out, let it out to let it in. And I'll just kind of the nurturing mother be that makes sense. That would be frustrating. That's hard. I get that. And not judging her for it. And then I'll be is there anything else? Let little Meredith say whatever else she needs to say. And and like really get that last like big like fuck you or anger or out at that time. You know, maybe it's like writing that like ending like fuck you letter to that person that you're never going to send, ripping it up, lighting it on fire safely in a metal sink or something, or flushing it down the toilet, or just like screaming into your pillow or bashing it, just like getting that anger out, like getting that anger toward that person out. So whoever that is for you right now, go ahead and pause this recording, write that, like ask your little younger self, like the pettiest thing that they need to say to that other person. Go ahead, get it out to let it in. And then have some sort of rage release, and we'll all kind of do it, you know, in our own worlds, but together, if you know what I mean. So like you can like scream, shout, let it all out, like that song goes. Scream and shout and let it out. Okay, go ahead and pause the recording and do that. Wow. I hope that was as powerful for you as it was for me. So now that you've let it out, the second step is like, okay, acknowledging like, why does that make you sad? Like kind of continuing that inner child dialogue. What's coming up for you? How does that make you feel? What makes me feel not enough because X and Y and Z? It makes me feel like annoyed that this person didn't acknowledge me for this thing I did for them. And like, yeah, it makes me feel unseen, and it makes me feel like, I didn't matter to them, or that they were just using me. And those feelings are valid, right? So again, journaling that out, speaking that out, telling your little self like, yes, that makes sense. Like you've done so much. I see you. I acknowledge you. Like even if that person doesn't acknowledge you or isn't seeing it your way, like I see it your way. I acknowledge you. That makes sense. Like just kind of like acknowledging them. So taking this time, acknowledge your younger self, why they're feeling that way, what like triggers or old feelings is it bringing up in them. Let's bring those to light. Let's pull those from the corners, the cobwebs, and just resurface them. And then after that, kind of like gently nudging your inner self, like, okay, what did we learn from this person? Like, what is it calling us to do? What is this trigger with this person calling us to do? How can we learn from it? How can we grow from it? How can we take radical ownership for our own part in it? So maybe radical ownership is learning to set a boundary, or releasing expectations around it, or talking in a more calm way, or, realizing there's something that you could have said differently and will do in the future, like loving and forgiving yourself. How you handled it before was perfect. It was just as it was meant to be for this divine lesson you're getting right now. But just taking a moment to like now thank your inner self, but also kind of writing a letter out thanking this person. So first do it for your inner self, like what is it making them feel? And then kind of as the parent to your inner self, like how are they growing from it? How are they actually really strong and resilient because of it? What is it showing them? How is it here to help them grow, as if you're the omniscient, all-knowing kind of like inner child parent? Like, how is it helping you grow? How are you going to look back in 10 years and be so grateful that this thing happened? Wow. Okay. And so then with that, I want you to write this person a letter of gratitude. Again, you don't have to send it to them, but just like, thank you. Thank you for bringing these feelings to the surface in me. Thank you for reminding me of X or Y or Z. Thank you for how this has like been a lesson in my life. And gratefully, like I take this lesson with me and I like release attachment to the situation, and just imagine sending them so much love and gratitude for it. Even if they like this lesson has been super motherfucking annoying for you, as I'm sure, some of them have, because we are all human and that is part of our journey. And the annoyance ruffles the feathers, leads to our spreading of our wings, leads to our growth. Am I right? Okay. So writing them this letter of gratitude, and then asking your inner self. I know we're kind of bouncing between activity with your inner self, with this person. Stay with it. We're dynamic. We're flowing. We're moving. I trust that you guys got it, because you guys are so powerful. And so then asking your inner self if they need anything from you. What do they need from you to be able to move forward with you? What in your highest self behavior, in your empowered behavior. And usually when I ask my inner child this, when I've been fucking pissed off by someone and wish they would acknowledge me, I'm like, acknowledge me, damn it, or whatever it is. It's usually that I could acknowledge myself more. And what I wrote in my diary this morning about the situation is like, you know what, little Mare, I see you. I see you doing these things, and I know it's okay that, you know, it doesn't matter who else sees it or not. Like, I see it and I see your heart. And I think that that's so beautiful. And I will never forget that, no matter if someone else says it or not. And so you can trust in that. And usually when we acknowledge ourselves or see that in ourselves, it like makes our inner child feel relaxed and like relax whatever need or attachment for the other person to give it to us. And as the Buddha quote goes, being angry at someone is like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to suffer. And so, you know, it's just that. It's like, can we acknowledge ourselves so we don't feel the need for it from the other person? And energetically, subconsciously, whether they realize it or not, usually that will loosen this subconscious grip that will allow more spaciousness and allowance. And I'm like, riddle you not, I shit you not. When I've done this before in the past from someone I so deeply like was so annoyed that they hadn't acknowledged me for something before. And of course, like there's times, and I'm, you know, that other friends, like I could have acknowledged them, and, you know, we get triggered by things that we've also done to trigger other people. But anyways, I did this exercise around a friend, you know, 2 years ago. And then like a year after I did the exercise, they came up to me and they're like, I just wanted to say like, thank you for all of this X and Y and Z. And so it was like a year after I had completely released attachment to ever having it happen, which is wild. So when you, ask your younger self what they need from you, and then also write this letter of gratitude to this other person, gratefully thanking them, and then releasing any attachment to the current energetics of the situation. And then there's a few like energetic spiritual things I do, and then we'll go into a meditation. But the energetic spiritual things that I do are I imagine this, the psychic taught me this practice. I imagine the situation in myself, what it brings up in myself, like the anxiety, the frustration, and I breathe out and I imagine it leaving my feet like tar into the sand, leaving my feet. Then I breathe in and flush my whole body with golden light. Then I see the other person's face in front of me. I breathe in the whole situation, all the emotions into them. And then I breathe it out and imagine it leaving their feet like tar. Then I breathe into them again. And then I flood their whole body with golden light, sending them love. And I do the ancient Hawaiian Ho'oponopono prayer, which is, I love you. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. As if to say, I love you. I'm sorry for my role in this situation. Please forgive me. Thank you. Then I imagine my hands and their hands touching, holding each other's. And I imagine the situation as its own entity in between us. Breathe up, feel it, and then exhale, feeling all of the tension from that situation going into the earth. Then breathing into the situation again, flooding it with golden light, exhaling, flooding it with golden light, and once again saying, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. As if to say to the situation, I love you. I'm sorry for my part in this. Please forgive me. Thank you. So I'll do it for you now if you want to close your eyes. And this will also be kind of a cord cutting ceremony for you, if you will. So closing your eyes, imagining as you take a deep breath in, the whole situation in you. Imagine all the feelings that it brings up in you. And then as you exhale, feel it like black tar leaving through the heels of your feet, returning to earth. And then in this spaciousness, breathing into your body, and exhale, flooding your entire body with golden light. Then seeing the other person in your mind's eye, breathing all of the tension from that situation into them. And then exhale, feeling all of that tension in them leave their body like black tar going into the earth. Breathing into them a second time. Exhale, almost like seeing their whole body flushed with this golden light as you tell them in their eyes, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Then putting your hands together with theirs, imagining the whole situation between you, breathing in all the tension, and then exhale, sending it into the earth. Another breath in to breathe in golden light, and exhale, send it through the situation and say, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And as you stand here neutral with this other person in golden light, feeling your heart and their heart beating at the same time, and as you see them in your mind's eye, seeing how they were perfectly sent here to help awaken you to a new lesson, to call you to your highest self, and sending them so much love and gratitude for this. And as you morph into your highest self, feeling your body with this golden light, seeing them in the situation playing out with both of you, acting as your highest self, playing out even better than you could imagine. You feeling like you're coming from love, and with that energetic set point, feeling them coming from love, seeing how that shifts the scene, seeing how that amplifies the gratitude, the love, whether you continue on together or go your separate ways, just seeing nothing but love. And as it ripples out, imagine having a pair of magical golden scissors in your hand and any remaining cords to them that aren't for your highest growth. Whether it's someone that you're keeping in your life, you can cut these cords of resentment, or if it's someone you're completely clearing out of your life, lovingly cut all cords with them with these golden scissors. Imagine cutting the cords between both of you and the other person, gently floating away, both of you untangling your roots, being rooted in the same soil in different places, both feeling lighter, both standing taller and more nourished, having done this work and returned all resentment to soil. Feeling so much love in your heart as you breathe in, and then exhale it out, opening up your eyes, returning back into this space. Wow. So hopefully you feel reset, realigned, and flushed with golden light and energy. So this is also TLDR, too long don't read, guys, what I love to do for cord cutting ceremonies, whether it's a past friendship or relationship, to kind of break down what we did in today's episode, getting that anger out first, getting that fuck you letter out, letting your inner child speak and be petty and bratty, and then ripping it up, burning it, flushing it down the toilet, then kind of just honoring your inner self's feeling. How did that make you feel? Where is that coming from? What is that triggering in you? And then how is that your opportunity for growth or for deeper healing? Then acknowledging that in yourself, acknowledging in you what you needed the other person to acknowledge. So writing yourself that letter of acknowledgement, and then writing that other person a letter of gratitude. How have you learned from them? How have they stepped, or how has this situation with them allowed you to step up? So just blanket, like, thank you. And then doing that exercise, flooding their body with golden light, doing the Ho'oponopono prayer of, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And then imagine cutting those cords and feeling that spaciousness on the other side. And then what I love to do on the other side is, how is this actually happening for me? How is this furthering my life goal? So with the person that, triggered me earlier this week, it's like, how can I use this as fuel for what I want to create next, or things that I want to bring forth? Like, how is it actually pushing me to go even farther than where I knew I could be with this extra motivation? So I love ending on that. And I will say, let's say it's a friend that you're doing this situation with. You've done this exercise with me, congrats, and you still have a little bit of resentment or whatever. It might be a sign, if it is a friend that you do still want to have in your life, that now that you've processed this work on your own, which I think is so important to do before going into a heated conversation, then you could consider connecting with them and chatting with them. And that in that case, you would do the alpha communication, which we've talked about before. Alpha being an acronym for acknowledgement, long-term vision, problem, happiness, ask, right? I acknowledge you for being a friend for me, for doing XYZ for me. My long-term vision is that we're still great friends and that we do X and Y and Z together. The problem is, and this is the part you keep completely neutral so they don't get defensive. When this happens, I notice myself feeling this, right? Keeping it centered on you and your emotional experience. Happiness. What would long-term happiness look like? I want you to be open and I want me to feel XYZ way. So my ask is this, and then ending with the ask. Is that something you're willing to do for me? And then it puts it in the form of a request. And hopefully this is a very disarming way to be able to have these conversations. And I always have to shout out my old exec coach, Victoria, when I use the Alpha framework, because she taught it to me. Shout out, Victoria. I love this framework. Thank you. And so that's a really powerful way to have conversations with friends. If you feel like the situation could use it, I would say continue to do the Ho'oponopono prayer and flooding the person's body with golden light and just envisioning best case outcome. I continue to also do my gratitude practice when I'm going through a situation like this where I feel triggered by someone of thank you for the magnificent outcome to this. I'm assuming, and you know what's so funny is when I hold that vision, even if it in that moment that person doesn't have the reaction I want or it takes a little longer, it always ends up coming around even better than I could imagine. So I also in that continued practice continue to say thank you for the magnificent outcome to the situation with this friend. Thank you for the magnificent outcome, or holding the vision and assuming best intention. And then whenever that person pops into my mind, instead of feeling angry, I send them love. I send them gratitude. And in this whole process, it's also important to have one or two confidants, whether it's your partner or your BFF lockbox, but not to vent about it to a lot of people. It's okay to vent about it to one person with the boundary or the context of hey, I'm venting about this to let this out, but I do want to come to a positive, next step on the other side. So you're kind of setting that intention versus kind of just shitting on this person. And then that creates more negative energy. So I would just have one or two lock boxes and your journal. It's important to get those feelings out, but have that intention going into it of I'm clearing these feelings out, a plumber clearing out a pipe. And then we are cleansing on the other side. And what a motherfucking gift you're giving this other person to be doing this work on yourself, to shift the energy with them. What a gift. You are, amazing. How cool is that you're using this opportunity to do this work on yourself, and it's going to turn out with that person or because of that person even better than you can imagine. And I am so proud of you. So this was a very short episode, guys, but I wanted to give you these tools when someone's triggering you. And I also can't recommend enough doing Byron Katie's worksheet on her website, thework.com, Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, where you fill in how this person's doing X and Y and Z, and you never want to feel this way from them again. And then when you get to the end of the worksheet and it populates their name, you replace their name with your name. So it'll be I wished so-and-so would acknowledge me. And then you replace it and it's I wished Meredith would acknowledge me. And it's so true when we're wishing for someone else to do something so badly, it's we're ignoring that in ourselves. So it's just a cool way of continuing to take that radical ownership, because when we take radical ownership, guys, we can of what's happening, we can then take radical ownership of what we want to create next. And how cool is that? Well, keep me posted. I hope these conversations, these energetic clearings, these cord cuttings are powerful for you. And if you want to ceremonialize it even more, you can go back into the Powerful Stuff archives, how to ceremonialize anything. It's super powerful. And before we sign off today, guys, I have to say I'm launching my next group program, the Upgrade, the 12-week transformational program. It's my 8th cohort. I've taken almost 4 dozen women through it. It's pretty crazy. And we go through everything from boundaries and communication to shadow work to tactical manifestation. It's already halfway full. So if you're interested, you can DM me or shoot me a note at me@themeredithbaker.com. I would love to tell you more. And I will see you next week for more powerful stuff. Boo, boo, boo.